Fitzsimmons.
Hello, everybody, and greetings from the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. I'm Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, along with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, and this is the Goatee Sports Page. It's the third Saturday in October as Alabama and Tennessee are set to do battle, and we're going to the whistle blows. I want to welcome everyone back for another week of the Goatee Sports Page. Donnie Moore will report the latest on the local high school football games and follow up with the national sports news. Marcus Fitzsimmons will be on board to update us on the greatest happenings in local high school sports. Maryville cross country will be on the agenda. And I will jump in and talk some UT football and basketball and then set the stage for some of the top games on today's National College Football schedule. We're happy you're all with us, and so let's get started. And before we get started, I would like to thank Marcus Fitzsimmons for filling in for me while I was having some surgery. And it's good to be back, and hopefully things will settle down for a while. And, Donnie, I believe you were back last week. You were on vacation, I think, the week before last. And
that's it.
Thanks for all your help. And
you're welcome.
I want to also give a shout-out to all those people that sent their prayers and well wishes to me while I was having surgery. And special thanks goes out to Jerry Mantooth and Bob Dalton down at Monte Vista Baptist Church, and some other fine folks that provided letters and thoughts for my care. They had a gal prayer group at the church that gave me an orange and white checkered blanket, which was really nice. Kind of looked like the end zone. And, of course, it came in kind of handy after the surgery. But I do appreciate them for all their help and all the other people that made contact with me during that time. And it's no fun to be laid up, Donnie. I can tell you that. I'd rather be right here on Saturday morning.
I know you would, and we're glad you are. It's nice to have you back, Mike.
Yeah, it is good to have you.
Yeah.
But I also want to say we need to thank Two Hype and Scott and Heath Dunkel for coming in and helping out and sitting in as panelists for us and giving me somebody to talk to.
True.
Because it's hard to talk to yourself when you're hosting.
Well, let's get back to the order of the day. I've got a few things here before we get started that's kind of come up. Last night, BYU beat Oklahoma State 38-35, and I know that's a late night. I don't think that game came on to about 10:15, but BYU won that game on a 40-yard touchdown pass with 19 seconds to go, and to keep their playoff hopes alive because they're unbeaten. They're unbeaten, so they're right in the thick. And that was a big game for them because Oklahoma State's pretty formidable foe.
Yeah,
so
Cowboys got a good football
They came out
team.
of that deal last night, and that was a home game out there for Brigham at Brigham Young, and they came out of it. Also, yesterday, Nick Saban was down in Austin, Texas, for the Formula One, where the Formula One race is taking place this weekend, and they took him around the track in the pace car. I'm not so sure that he felt real comfortable with it because Miss Terry, his wife, was with him. So I don't know. He had some big eyes after he got out of that pace car. But anyway, I thought that was – I guess they're down there for game day, the Georgia-Texas game. So he just took the day and went down there.
It's a double shot for ESPN because they've got the race on Sunday, and they've got the Georgia-Texas game.
Yeah, big day.
Today.
Big day down in Texas. Also, Donnie, I got a kick out of this. The two-seater ride in Indianapolis yesterday, there was a 90-year-old woman that had her birthday. And I guess her family thought it would be really nice to put her in that two-seater race car and send her around there at 180 miles an hour or 185 miles an hour. But she took them up on it. She had the driver's uniform on and everything, got in the car, and she'd been to 70 consecutive Indianapolis 500.
Wow.
Well, the Speedway was so impressed with all that after she got out of the car, they had the quart of milk ready for her.
Yeah.
And, the drivers that win the race, they get their choice of milk.
Sure.
Whether they want skim milk or whole milk or whatever. She chose chocolate milk. So there she was. She got out of the car. They gave her the quart of chocolate milk. I thought that was so cool, for a 90th birthday. And like she had a pretty good time, and she made it all the way through.
Nice. Happy birthday to her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then a shout-out to our good friend Tony Aruli. What a year they're having up at Carson-Newman.
Indeed.
I think they've got Wise of Virginia coming in today at 1 o'clock for a game there at Burke Tower Stadium, and they haven't lost. that right? Carson Dominguez not lost.
It got kind of touchy last week.
Yeah, well, every week's been a little touchy, but they've come out.
But they came out of it with the win. But they really had to. They had to do what they don't like to do. They had to throw the ball to get 14 points in the fourth quarter and rally to win that one.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They don't like to throw it.
Got a little Tennessee basketball here on the agenda to get started on the UT Sports, and the national preseason polls have come out. You can take them for whatever they're worth, but they've got Tennessee at number 12, Marcus, and that's the last few years. That's kind of been where they've been in that top 10 range, 11, 12, whatever. I think it's a pretty good position for them to be in. There's a lot of high hopes over there for this basketball team.
Well, you know, that first poll, it's always so much based on what you did last year. And sometimes that's real helpful, especially for teams that are trying to gear up and get the number 1 seed and start off where you can win a couple games and move up into the top 10 pretty easily. But
sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's not. And I'm like, outside of your point guard, what are you basing that on? What I mean, you're bringing some players back, but your starting lineup from what you used a year ago is pretty much gone.
Yeah, completely different.
So I'm not. They're going to have to show me something early on for me not to think they're a little bit higher than maybe they should be for a team returning 1 starter.
Yeah, well, I thought they were really generous with the number of SEC teams. You know, in the top 25, Alabama's in at number 2, Auburn's in at 11. Of course, Tennessee, as we've mentioned, is 12. Texas A&M is 13. Arkansas, with John Calipari, is number 16.
Yeah.
And he's got a whole brand new crop of players in there, and they're feeling real good
It's
about
a
him being
completely brand new team.
Imagine that.
Brand new team, and they got him 16th. And then
they've got him 16, and you've got all you can base that on is these players have transferred in. You got no idea how they play together or mesh together or anything.
Absolutely.
They got Texas at 19, Florida at 21, and Kentucky at 23, and Ole Miss at 24. That's a pretty big crop.
That's loaded with SEC teams.
You're not a kid, and that's. I'll tell you, I told people this the last several years. The best basketball conference in the United States and the best football is the Southeastern Conference right now, and baseball. I think baseball is arguably the best conference too in the United States.
You can't argue with that.
No, I'm telling you, you know. If you go back years, you couldn't always say that because you always thought of the ACC being a basketball league and, you know, the Big Ten so forth. But, golly, the SEC right now, you know, looks to me like they're the best. They're strong. It's you better bring your A game every night you play. Huh?
Better believe it because Vandy's winning games.
Yeah. Well, they got Kansas number 1 and Connecticut's number 3. They got Gonzaga in there at number 6, Duke at 7, North Carolina 9. I guess my point I'm making, Arizona 10. I guess the point I'm making right there, even though Kentucky's not in the top 10 like they've been in a lot of other years, there's enough blue bloods to go around there.
Oh yeah, there is. I mean, and you know the quirky and fun thing about rankings, the number of teams that are anywhere close to where they start at the end of the year compared to where they start the year is really, really fun to track because it doesn't match up at all.
Yeah.
Rarely have we seen the preseason number 1 ever make the Final Four.
Yeah. Indiana is rated number 16, and I mentioned them because they're coming in here to play Tennessee in an exhibition game on October the 27th. Mm-hmm. They'll be over at Thompson-Boling Arena at 3 o'clock, and I think they're 17th instead of 16th. But that'll be a good matchup for exhibition. There's a lot of high hopes in Indiana, but you know they got a coach up there right now. He's kind of fighting for his job a little bit. Yeah. So we're going to see what they've got, and we'll kind of see what Tennessee's got there early. Of course, a lot of people say, "Well, it's just an exhibition game," but you can't tell that to the players and coaches. To them, it's just a regular season game. I've been there. You know, that's the way they treat it. They treat it just like a regular season game. I know when I was in college. You had to sacrifice a regular season game if you wanted to play a preseason game. So Coach Mears, he sacrificed the game area. One year we went over and played Davidson. The year after Lefty Drizel left and went to Maryland. Terry Holland took over, who later became the Virginia coach. We went over and played them. And then we went down and played Jacksonville. They thought it would be a good trip to play Jacksonville before we went to play Houston in our second game of the season that year. And we went down there, and that wasn't a very fun trip. We couldn't get the ball in bounds. That was the toughest game I've ever been through in my life. Jacksonville has some great basketball teams. Back I think Artis Gilmore played there. And I think they went to the Final Four one year.
Twin Towers, Artis Gilmore and Pembroke Burroughs.
It was not a fun trip down there, but all in all, it did get us ready to go play Guy Lewis and Houston there in the pavilion in Texas there. So, but anyway. Yeah, that's coming up here in another week or so. Hey, I've been gone. Let her rip. You really let her rip, or you just let her go?
We didn't call it that, but we did a little bit of ripping, didn't we, Marcus?
We ripped in pieces.
Yes.
Yeah. We didn't let it rip. We just took little bitty bites here and there.
Nibbled.
So.
All right.
We nibbled at it.
Well, I got one that just came out yesterday. In fact, yesterday, former Virginia head basketball coach Tony Bennett announced his retirement from the sport. He pointed to the current environment in college sports as one of the driving forces behind his decision to step down. Bennett has long criticized the direction of college athletics and an increased emphasis on the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. And the state of college athletics has moved closer to a professional model. In 15 seasons, Tony Bennett guided the Cavaliers to outstanding success. He was a two-time National Coach of the Year and led Virginia to a national championship in 2019. His squads won 6 ACC regular season titles and 2 league tournament championships. Another outstanding collegiate coach steps down due to the landscape changing of college sports. You got Jay Wright, who stepped down at Villanova after winning a couple of national championships. Of course, Nick Saban at Alabama, and it continues. How many more? I guess here's the question. How many more coaches will leave the collegiate level before the madness taking place in college sports gets under control? Marcus, do you see more of this happening, especially with guys that's been around a while?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's calling it done right here and right now, 2 weeks before the season.
Yeah, I thought that was a little unusual.
So you can believe what you want to about NIL and his reasons for leaving. I don't buy it for a minute. If that was his problem, he had plenty of opportunity to leave and give the school an opportunity to make a reasoned decision and search as to what they want to do. Leaving 2 weeks before the season says to me something else is completely going on.
Yeah. Well, you would have to assume that.
But to your point about NIL, will we see more coaches leaving? Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Because there are, depending on how NIL continues to, what direction it continues to evolve, when you can no longer coach in a manner that is strict or disciplined, you can't balance that with NIL, that if you're strict on the player, he just takes his stuff and leaves and can quit on you in the middle of the season and save his eligibility. We talked about that last week, that you got guys saying, you know what, we played 3 games, I don't like it, I'm done. I'm going to sit and transfer next year. So I think if it continues that way, I think you'll see a lot more coaches leaving.
Yeah, yeah. I like Tony Bennett. You know, he was always a class guy. He was kind of an old school guy, throwback. His players, Donnie, always kind of took on that New York Yankee image. You know, we expect you to look a certain way, dress. All of his players had the same shoes, same socks, you know, and everything was just
clean cut.
Yeah,
guys.
Clean cut all the way through, and he won with that.
He
won with it there, but obviously he doesn't think that's the direction that it's going.
Well,
but,
only 5 years ago he won a national championship.
Yeah,
you know,
2019.
2019.
And while that was taking place, it was announced that Clemson University will be charging an $150 athletic fee per semester to be used to pay athletes. The fee is expected to raise between $7 and $8 million for the athletic department. Well, that's nice. Y'all pay for your own schooling, and we want to take $300 from you so we can pay some of these guys coming in here.
Help us pay
their
for
millions
these athletes.
of dollars. That's kind of a neat deal, isn't it?
That's something.
You talk about let her rip.
Well,
you know, if I was a student, I don't know if I'd care much for that
I just want to know why they're this late to the game. They're charging students, right?
Yes.
I mean, UT charges you an activities fee. They've done that
Yeah,
for
well,
years.
that activities fee when I was in school over there was $25.
Well, it's over
That's
a
all.
hundred. It's over $100 and something dollars
but
now.
listen, that
and it
20
no longer guarantees you like in the '90s, and I guess since it was initiated up until about 2000, when you paid that activities fee, your tickets to athletic events as a student were free.
Yeah, you were guaranteed.
That's not
tickets.
the case anymore. You got to pay for tickets now.
Mhm.
It's at a student rate, but the whole free part of it's gone. So
Yeah,
what is
it's gone.
what does the activities fee cover? Well, now you know because
Now
they
we know.
raised it.
Yeah, but you didn't have to have that activity fee when I was over there in school. I mean,
It's
it
mandatory.
was an optional. Now, yeah, but this is specifically going for something right here. When I had that activity deal over there at UT, I had it so I could go to the Clarence Brown Theater and see plays.
There you go.
You believe that?
There
don't
you go.
You
I sure
believe-
do. Yeah.
It included a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Not like this deal where this money's specifically going to pay these athletes to go.
I
to
don't
school.
agree with putting it on the students so much. I'd rather see them put it on, like UT is doing it and doing it as a fee for the people who are attending the events and buying season tickets. But,
Yeah.
however, every school's going to have to find a way.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. And I saw where they did away with the national, where you had the national letter of intent, and then when I was in school, you had a national letter of intent that you signed in the spring, and then you had a few weeks, and then you signed the final letter
Then you
that
signed
bound
yeah.
you. And now they're going to do a deal where when you sign, you sit down and they're going to show you your package.
Yeah, you'll be signing. It's
Your
basically an
package.
employment offer.
Yes.
It's
it's
basic.
professional sports.
It's basically
It's
the
a
same thing
contract.
you get when you start a job, and you get the letter that is listing out your benefits and what you're going to get. That initial letter you receive, it's going to be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, sort of. So it's going to look a lot like Brian Johnson, his contract with us that he goes over with us.
Yeah.
Is that right, Donnie?
I guess so.
Where we sit down with.
If we had one.
Hey,
Is that where we negotiate my parking and, just exactly what quality of meal we get, and
Yeah.
because I enjoy eating here at Bluetick, but if we had unlimited budget, I might be choosing better, higher menu items.
Well, you can
and-
write that
and
in.
greater
You can
quantities.
write that in.
Yeah, let's
Hey,
negotiate that.
The SEC precinct. We talked about national predictions. The SEC predictions are also out there. Alabama, number 1. Auburn 2. They got Auburn ahead of Tennessee on this one. Tennessee's 3rd. Arkansas had them 16 national. They got them 4th in the Southeastern Conference. Texas A&M 5th. Florida 6th. Texas 7th. Kentucky 8th. Ole Miss 9th. Mississippi State 10. South Carolina 11, and then Georgia, Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt kind of even it out there at the end. But I see a tough league. I see a tough league inside and out right here. And what I think one of the things that's really helped the Southeastern Conference in basketball is the fact because of the strength in the league, it has attracted top coaches and top at these schools.
You've got top coaches, but you've also got top dollars, and those things go hand in hand now. So you've got top dollars. You've got. We don't know the specifics because of the way NIL is arranged, but you would guess the SEC is either 1 or number 2 as far as if you took the league as a whole and took the NIL money available. It's either the SEC or the Big Ten that's got the most, and I would bet more on the SEC for it.
Yeah, I would too.
And that's getting you athletes. And then when you've got a successful culture, when you've got, you come to campus and you're like, okay, there's going to be a high spirit because football's doing well. Those feed into each other. And
Sure they do.
they kind of lead to the whole thing. The only people that really haven't jumped on that bandwagon very well are Florida and Georgia. Florida's messed up its NIL collective from the beginning, is still dealing with the ramifications from that. But Georgia has not been able to capitalize. They've been in this football's good, basketball's bad mode since, 5 years now?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
kind of
good 5
baffling to
years.
me. You would think with Georgia's location and proximity to Atlanta they would be right on top and competitive, but they just haven't looked good the last 5 seasons.
Well, there's a school down there in 15th that has had some pretty good basketball through the years, and that's Oklahoma.
Yeah,
And they're next to last, in the preseason rankings going into this year. Let's talk a little Tennessee football. Last week, Tennessee defeated Florida 23-17 in a must-win game if you're thinking playoffs.
In overtime.
And boy, yeah, in overtime to extend their record to 5-1. And Marcus, I guess my question to you was, did Florida just basically shoot themselves in the foot, or did Tennessee beat Florida? Did they beat them? What do you think?
It's a tough one, but what I will lean to is Tennessee won the intangibles. They made less mistakes, so therefore they won the game. Florida made a lot of mistakes. You can say it cost them the game, and in a way it did, but Tennessee also had something to do with several of those mistakes in what they made Florida think when they made some of those decisions. And then the defense just played really, really well against the team that was in front of them. That's not to say that they're going to look that good today. It's not going to say that they looked that good a week or two ago. But, I mean, I think for what we know about Tennessee, the teams Tennessee has played at this point, they played good against maybe one of the better teams that they faced so far.
Yeah, I think Florida kind of kept Tennessee out of their tempo offense too, and that was big in that game.
Yeah.
They didn't get to run the tempo offense as much as they would have liked to, I think.
I was really surprised, though. Tennessee, they went into the game as about a 15-point, 2-touchdown favorite, and, that just didn't hold up at all. I mean, Florida jumped out there at 10-0 and went on. But give Tennessee credit. They found a way to win the game. And, if you're going to go to the playoffs or you're going to have a season that you want, you got to find some way to win.
Yes, you do.
And they did find a way to win. I want to talk about Tennessee's defense. And I've been around Tennessee football for a long time, but if this defense continues to do what they've done this year, could go down as one of the greatest defensive efforts of the year.
Well, you would know, Mike, you were there the last time the defense was this good.
Yeah, that would have been
the last time Tennessee gave up less than 64 points in the first 6 games was under Bill Battle in 72.
72, I was there. I would have been a junior.
Yeah.
I would have been a junior. Hey, 5 games into the season with Power 5 teams, this defense has held those teams under 20 points. That's amazing. That's in this day and age, that's absolutely amazing. I guess the question is, and you guys can jump right in there, can they hold that up the rest of the year? Now, they've lost a couple of linebackers. They lost one linebacker, and I think there's another one out today.
Yeah, Keenan Peely
is out for the season. Yeah, you got to deal with injuries, but
of course you do.
Yeah, can they hold it up? Got a lot of silence here.
Maybe.
Well, they're going to have to, I think, because until the offense finds itself again.
The offense catches up with the defense.
So the first 3 games, you had, 9 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns. Over the last 3 games, you have combined 8 touchdowns over those 3 games. Wow. So, and what we know now looking back is that NC State was not a quality win. And we know Oklahoma is not looking like it's going to count as a quality win when it's all said and done. So, basically, you got 4 cupcake wins, and then you've got a loss to Arkansas and a win over Florida.
Florida's not going to look any good either. if you look at what Florida's got left the rest of the year, you might as well stick a fork in them. They're in trouble.
But but unless you think Florida's going to go out and lose every single one of them on the back half of the season, they're going to beat somebody. If they beat, and one of those is going to be somebody who's going to make Tennessee's win look better because they're going to beat somebody they shouldn't.
Yeah. Well,
of course, they could go 0-6 on the back
stretch. As good as that defensive looked, on the other side of the coin is the offense, and they've looked about as bad as the defense has looked good. I mean, they have just they have just been playing well enough to win the game. Nico Imalava, he's we were expecting all these big things, but he struggled in every one of these. He struggled in every one of these SEC games. The offense looks like a boat out there without the rudder. Nico doesn't seem to be playing with a lot of confidence. He's missing receivers on deep routes, overthrowing the ball, not accurate on short passes. He hadn't been real mobile back there. The offensive line hadn't done a real good job of protecting him, which has been part of the problem. And they've had penalties and creating holes for runner. But the amazing thing about that offense is you got one guy that has turned it around for him, and that's Dylan Sampson. You know, he's got 15 touchdowns, and he's 3 touchdowns short of the record that was set in 1939. He just needs 3 more. He just needs 3 more touchdowns to break that.
Here's who's ahead of him. He's got 15 in the single season rushing touchdowns at Tennessee. Tony Thompson's at 3 with 16 from 1990. Reggie Cobb from 1987 had 17. And then you go back to Gene McEver in 1929 with 18 touchdowns.
Good grief.
Yeah.
So he's got a real possibility.
He does.
Of breaking that record that's been in there for 95 years.
Yes.
94 football seasons, 95 years.
Yeah, that record's gone.
I think so.
It may be gone today. If he has a good day.
If you're a Tennessee fan, you're hoping he breaks it today because
Yeah.
that would put 3 touchdowns on the board.
Yeah.
And you're going to need those.
But listen,
Oh, yeah.
make no mistake about it. He has carried that offense. He has made
you're
the
right.
He
He
has
has.
made the plays and made the scores when they have needed it. When they have needed it.
That's true.
He's got that unique ability that, and it's kind of, you know, you look for it in a running back whenever you talk to a coach. You know, he can make a lot out of a small hole. He has his best runs have been through some of the smallest openings, where he had just like
Nothing there.
he just sidestepped and got through and was gone because the defense was collapsing on that side. And
He's slippery.
he gets, I mean, he's very tough to bring down once you do. I mean, his yards
Yes,
after
he is.
contact are phenomenal.
I want to talk about a coaching decision that was made last week. Tennessee had 4th and 1 on their own 10-yard line. You remember that? 4th and 1 on their own 10-yard line. They lined up to go for it, and probably everybody, including Florida in the stadium, was thinking they're trying to draw Florida offside, you know, to get the first down.
Yeah.
And they run the play, and they get the first down. I guess my question is, was that a gut call or just plain insanity? Come on, Marcus.
Yes, to both.
Let Donnie go with this one.
Yes, to both. I thought, what are they doing?
You know, you talk about all the big plays in the game you want to talk about. That's a play of the game right there.
Oh,
They
it
don't
is.
get that. Florida goes in, and they go up, 17-3?
It was gutsy, that's for sure. But
I mean-
it's also, in my opinion, it was.
I mean, you have
it could have been suicide.
You justifiably have a lot of faith in your defense at that point.
Yeah.
Because they've already stopped Florida 4 times in the red zone at that point.
Yeah.
But what I struggle with is I'm still not sure it was a gutsy decision to try to get the offense moving and get something going, or whether it was just a we got to do something sort of thing. And it makes all the difference in the world is how the team perceived that. If they think the coach did that because it was a desperation move, that's totally different than coach believing that you all were going to get it.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it was the most insane thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I can bet you any amount of money you want to put on this table that if they've got 4th and 1 on their own 10-yard line today against Alabama, or 4th and 1 on their own 10-yard line against Georgia and Athens later in the year, that punter's standing back there in the end zone kicking that football. I can guarantee you that. But I don't know. I was just absolutely amazed that they made the decision to go for that. But as it turned out, it was a game changer.
Turned out well.
Everybody's happy, and everybody went home and think, man, what a call that was. Man, I'll tell you what, got to love the guy. Got to love Heupel for making a call like that.
I will give him this. If you're in a way, you have to be gutsy to make that call no matter what, because you know if you don't get it, you are going to be roasted on the national media for days.
Your playoff chances, they're done. You're out of you're out of the playoffs. You're not going to you know, and that's the play that's going to come back. We don't deserve to be in playoff because we went for 4th and 1 on our own 10-yard line. Hey, it's time to move on, right, Donnie?
Yeah, it is.
All right.
You take a break.
Okay, it's now time for the we'll move on to the next segment. And, gosh, what is the next segment?
Next
Rusty,
segment is the local scoreboard and mark it down.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Donnie. You're listening
You're
to
welcome.
the Sports Page, Blount County Sports Voice. And now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Goatee Sports Page. Donnie Moore, great night for high school football last night.
You know, high school football season is almost over, the
Yeah,
regular season.
unbelievable.
This was week 9.
And it's just now getting football weather.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, good grief, where does the time go? But yeah, you're right, Mike. It was a good weekend for prep football here in Blount County and surrounding areas. Alcoa traveled up to the Scott County Highlanders, and visit the Highlanders last night, and had absolutely no trouble with Scott. They won 56-14. They were ahead 49-0 at the half.
I don't think Scott had won a game. I think they were on.
No, they remain winless.
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
They're 0-8 now. I think the points that for Alcoa, I mean, it's a region game, so you got to play
It is a region game,
and so nobody particularly wants to go to Huntsville.
No,
because it is a drive up there. But one thing that I liked watching, you know, you got 2 touchdown passes to Eli Owens in the game, and Eli had just 1 touchdown reception all year going into the game. So I thought it was big that they were working on some things that got him back involved in the offense, because he's a lot of that's all the defensive time he has spent against some of these better teams, where he's been playing almost every defensive snap, and that's limited what he could do on offense. But so he got involved back in as that H-back tight end type thing. Jameer Dean had 2 big touchdown catches early on. And then we should shout out Joseph Carter, 94-yard interception return for a touchdown. I mean, that's not end zone to end zone, but it's pretty darn close.
It's pretty close. You're right.
So I thought that was Alcoa did what they needed to go into Maryville week. Because Pistol Creek rivalry is the week is here. They all know it. Kept their focus, got it done.
At Stanley Shields Stadium, at Skeeter Shields Stadium. So it's at Maryville.
And here's the quirks in the schedule, because Kingston is still technically on top of the region because they are 3-0 in region play, and Alcoa's only played 2 region games because of the hurricane.
Yeah.
But Kingston will close their regular season against Alcoa, so they have the bye week next week. Kingston is 5-4 and 3-0. Alcoa is 5-1 and 2-0. Kingston's played 3 more games than Alcoa at this point, and Alcoa is going to make that all up in like 13 days because they are going to play Maryville, then they're going to play Union, then they're going to play Kingston.
Yeah.
And I
2
think,
games in 1 week.
I mean, I think that it's been a task to keep that team engaged because they have had so many. You had an open date they didn't want. You had the regular bye week that you were expecting, but then you had the hurricane game that moved stuff around. So keeping these guys, like if your reward is to be playing on Friday night, when you have 3 Friday nights where you're not playing, that's tough.
It is. It's hard to practice.
I mean,
and not play.
I mean, if you're going to go through 10 practices before you get in a game, that's hard to keep the guys. That's a challenge for the coaching staff.
Sure is.
I think Coach Nix is doing a good job to keep those guys engaged with them.
I agree. Let's move on to Eagleton, traveling up to South Green last night for a region contest up there, and they lost a heartbreaker, 28-20.
Yeah, Eagleton was rolling in the third quarter. They put up 3 straight touchdowns. Had South Green, if you were in upset position going into the fourth quarter, which is exactly what you wanted.
Sure.
And they couldn't get past it. And it was a good try from Coach Childs and the Royals, but I mean, the way it's going to shape out, it pretty much looks like that puts South Green in the driver's seat to win the region, and it puts Eagleton in the position where if they are not going to be the 4 seed, they're going to have to upset Hampton next week.
Wow.
And that game that was the if game we weren't sure about because Hampton was one of the schools affected by the tornado.
Yes.
They don't even really have a school. So they are going to make up the game that was canceled because of the hurricane aftermath. And the Cosby game has been canceled. So because Hampton still doesn't have a field, they're going to play the game at ETSU. ETSU is going to open it up. So next Friday, they're going to be Eagleton will be loading up and going up to Johnson City and playing at ETSU to take on Hampton. So that for the kids, that's a good experience.
It is a good
play
experience.
in the college stadium and get that experience.
Sure. Well, Greenback hosted Oneida last evening and got pretty well blasted by the Oneida Indians, 31-6. Greenback's had a tough year.
They've had a tough year. They're trying new things. Oneida dominated, but again, Oneida's a 2A team that has beaten 2A teams. So winning at Greenback,
they were playing up.
This was a makeup game, but Greenback had minus 9 yards rushing, I think, in the first half. It's a struggle. They finished with 25 attempts for 11 net yards. Now, some of that is on quarterback sacks, of course, but you also had I lost track of what the actual count was, but there were at least 3 snaps that didn't make it from center to quarterback and ended up being chase it down and jump on it losses that go against that as well. But
that's tough.
I mean, you look at it, Oneida had 221 yards of offense on basically, when you're talking about the starters, about 20 plays. And Greenback ran 46 plays and netted 73 yards. Goodness. So it was Greenback's trying, but I'm pretty sure that at this point they are out of that race for the playoffs and will be done after 2 more games.
Gotcha. Well, Coach Joe Ossovet's Mountaineers of Heritage High School went to Lenore City last night and flexed their muscles, Mike. Heritage won that one 45-0. Shut out the Panthers.
And, I can't say I'm surprised, but Heritage has Lenore City's number. Lenore City has played teams in their region okay. I mean, they haven't been walked over by everybody. And Heritage went last year. It was 35-0.
Yeah,
like that. Heritage scored something like 88 straight. 80. I think we looked it up. It's like 90, 89, high 80s, low 90s straight points against Lenore City over 3 games. And it, you just gotta kind of be glad for Heritage because that gets them back to 500.
Yeah.
And they get the big one next week. If you're going to build momentum, and they've had the opportunity before. They built momentum, and then they played Powell, and it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
They've got momentum from this one, and you're going to Knox Central next week, and if you can win at Knox Central, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's tough to go to Boomer Boring Stadium and beat the Bobcats, but they've got a shot at it. So,
and
they've been playing well.
And you're going to get Central after they've just played Powell, so they're coming off a 34-8 hammering last night. They're beat up, so you would hope that all those factors could play to Heritage's favor because they've worked so hard.
Mm-hmm.
They've gotten so close to being a playoff team again, and it's basically down to one game. You win next week and you're in.
Wow. One game says it all, huh?
Well, it's been a while since the two county schools together have been in the playoffs.
In the same year, it's been quite a while.
Yeah, it really has. Well, Maryville stayed undefeated. Last night they hosted the Cleveland Blue Raiders in a region contest. Maryville comes out on top 37-15, Marcus.
Yeah, I watched that one, and I haven't gotten hate mail yet this morning. I'm sure it's waiting on me. But, it doesn't have to be pretty, and it wasn't pretty last night, but it was effective.
That's all that matters.
Maryville made some mistakes. They had 2 costly fumbles. If they don't have 2 fumbles, this game is out of hand and in mercy rule in the third quarter. But, and I'm going to say the key clinching thing for Maryville was, how Maryville loves to do that, score right before halftime, get the ball to start the second half, score again, and you're down. It's a 14-point swing, and you're down and they're rolling, and
if they get a turnover to make that last score and a half, it's a 21-point turnaround.
That's what Maryville loves to do. They've done it. It was a Quarles thing. Coach Hunt does it. They really focus on capitalizing on those 2 opportunities. And last night it looked like they had just shot themselves in the foot. They fumbled the ball in the first snap with 3 minutes to go in the second quarter. Not only are you giving the ball up, they gave the ball up deep in their own territory. It's looking like they're giving Cleveland a chance to score and tie the game rather than Maryville taking advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And the Maryville defense made the stop against everything in the kitchen sink Cleveland had. They went Wildcat. They went secondary Wildcat with another running back running with the Wildcat formation. They went to the hook and ladder with the biggest secondary receiver I have ever seen. And I'm going to give a shout-out to safety White. He probably tackled the biggest kid he has ever tackled in a game and stopped him short of getting the first down because that was a 4th down play. Maryville gets the ball back, goes the distance, scores right before half, comes out of half, scores, and really made the turning point of the game when it looked like they had blown the opportunity.
Oh, goodness.
But Maryville's pretty much they're clinched at least a share of the region title.
Right.
Because they're 4-0. Bearden is 3-1. So, and then next week you've got Alcoa Maryville, and Bearden's at Mo West, so they're not region games. But when you close it out, theoretically Bearden could tie if Maryville were to lose at Farragut, but Maryville still has the tiebreaker, so they're still going to be the number 1 seed. Mm-hmm. But they can win. They can take care of all that themselves just by winning at Farragut in the season finale,
which I think they will.
So, we'll see what happens.
Yes, we will.
I mean, Farragut is. We were talking before the show. Farragut's won 3 in a row. They're looking better. Than, the 0-5 start they had. So, there's some challenging football, and of course, it's Alcoa week. That works both ways.
What more can you say? Huh?
About the rights of Pistol Creek bragging rights are up for grabs this week, and not to discredit some of the opponents both schools have played, but this may be arguably the toughest opponent they have faced yet this season for both schools.
Wouldn't be at all surprised. William Blount traveled way up northeast to Kingsport to face the Dobbins-Bennett squad yesterday and last night. Govs held it close for at least the first half. It was tied at the halftime.
Yeah.
And but Dobbins-Bennett prevailed in the second half in this region contest, 28-14. Marcus.
Yeah, you know, when they announced that score, you heard the ooh kind of sound, and people got interested all of a sudden, like wow. But you know, then it kind of things kind of built. DB had a good third quarter. They put up 2 scores. William Blount had the opportunity to make a miracle play. They weren't completely out of this. And compared to what happened to William Blount last year on their own home field against Dobbins-Bennett, this is a dramatic step forward. So,
to actually be in the ball game,
be in the ball game, competing with the team that's going to be playing for the region title next week.
Sure.
Or 2 weeks from now, rather.
Yeah.
But the Governors still have their opportunities. They get Saudi Daisy next week, which is a non-region game, and it's a game that William Blount should be able to win.
Mm-hmm.
But then they close out region play, hosting Jefferson County. Right now, the Govs are tied with Jeffco 2-2 in region play. So if they get the win over Jefferson County, when they get the opportunity, that would put them up to the 3 seed. And there's a world of difference between being the 3 seed in this region and being the 4 seed in this region. Because ideally you'd love to be the 2 seed. Last night settled they can't be that.
You have to get the host that way.
But if you're the 3 seed, you're probably going to Bearden. But if you're the 4 seed, you're probably going to Maryville.
Yeah.
So that's not even a good road trip for your playoff reward if you're William Blount. So they know what they have to do, and their work's. I mean, it's pretty defined what they need.
Well, let's talk about Seymour, Marcus. And there's not much to talk about. Seymour, it was open.
Yeah, but I know they did not lose to bye week.
That's right. You can't lose there. So congratulations there.
Let's not be backhanded,
no, absolutely not.
I will say this though. They had South Green last week for their homecoming game. We talked about it a little bit there. The homecoming funds and what was raised, the way I understand it, were lumped together as a donation that was used to help with hurricane relief to some regard.
Fantastic.
And I kind of got to give a shout out to Seymour dance team that we talked about that won nationals last year.
Mm-hmm.
Also won homecoming for best float because they actually do a parade now at Seymour. I didn't know this. I saw a picture of the float and I was impressed. So way to go to Seymour dance team for winning that.
Absolutely. And our final score, Kings Academy traveled to Middle Tennessee Christian School in a region contest last night. And
how going to Nashville is a region game
how is that region?
Me.
We don't know. But anyway, it was a region contest. And 37-30, Middle Tennessee Christian is the way the ball game ended up. Good game, obviously.
It's just one Kings Academy is going to want back next year.
Yeah,
I mean that was one of their opportunities to get a much needed W.
Yeah,
but when you're the one making the 3-hour drive, that works against you every time in a regular season game.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Well, WB senior Sophia Gambini made history last weekend when she was crowned the TSSAA Girls AA Golf State Champion. After 3 sudden death holes at Sevierville Country Club with Dixon County freshman Poppy Pewitt, Gambini holed a birdie putt on the par 4 number 3 hole of the Highlands course to seal the win. Cup's been over the moon. He went. He recorded.
Oh, he was there.
Yeah,
he recorded. If you've watched him, he actually did, I think he did like the golf commentator play-by-play quietly over the last hole and a half.
He whispered a lot. But that's history made, and we've got another another historical moment too that happened this past week. Carson Holbert of Eagleton signed his letter of intent to go to the University of Montevallo in Montevallo, Alabama, Mike, who is the #1 school in the country for the last 4 years for fishing. Their fishing team. And Carson's been fishing ever since he was 7 years old. He's a senior at Eagleton. So, and Marcus and I went to the signing, and it's very nice. We appreciate the invitation.
Oh yeah,
They
it
get
was great.
NIL deals on that?
You know,
They might.
I'm not going to say that I know for certain. However, fishing is a sport that has been sponsor heavy since it has hit the big time.
Oh, yeah.
Since we got past the days of Jerry Reed and PU stink bait on Saturday
Yes.
mornings, when it became an actual money event, that sponsorship is involved, and you can tell, much like NASCAR, when you see the guys out there in their jerseys, there's lots of sponsorship
Oh,
money.
yeah.
I would suspect if there was a sport set up for NIL, that would be it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not know how that actually works. I will say this, though. That school has sent more guys, into the professional bass fishing circuit than anybody else.
Yep.
And they've got guys who are 2 or 3 years removed who are already fishing on the top circuit and making major money.
The elite.
I mean,
fishermen,
the elite
level.
tour.
Yeah.
And, you know, he made a great comparison during the signing that's very true. If you don't recognize fishing as a sport, and some people don't, but if you want to make the comparison, this is the Alabama, if you're a football team.
Mhm.
This is that school for
Yeah.
fishing. This is the
Montevallo.
This is the Duke for basketball of fishing. This is and the funniest thing was, he didn't even think he was like they would be interested in him. He didn't.
No.
He didn't have them on his list.
Wasn't even on his radar.
When he went out talking to schools and had the opportunity, he just kind of went by them because he didn't think they'd be interested, and they scolded him for it. Coach texted him and scolded him and said, "Disappointed you didn't come by and see me." And I thought that was fantastic because I don't know what he said in reply, but what he did was the first thing the next morning, he was there in front of Coach and put himself right there
Yeah.
to talk to him. And a lot of kids would not do that.
No.
To be honest, a lot of kids would be intimidated by a text message like that and would just kind of blow it off and just ignore it. He showed up to Coach and was basically like, you want to see me? Here I am.
Yeah, he looked at it as an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And it was.
And
it is.
and that's part of what the coach was looking for. He recruits his athletes for fishing like a lot of coaches do for other sports. He wanted to see some fire and gumption. He wanted to see what his kids are made of.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
I mean, I won't say it was a deliberate test of the phrasing that he used, but it had that effect.
Yep, sure did.
You know, there's been
Sure
some
did.
great individuals involved in fishing. You know, Ted Williams, was a great fisherman.
Great fisherman.
And him and Bob Knight went to Russia on a fly fishing expedition years ago. And they got over there, and Ted looked at Bob Knight's equipment and said, "This is the worst bunch of rods and reels I've ever seen in my life." Said, "This isn't going to work over here." So he gave Knight some rods and reels to use out there. So they took the guide out there to catch trout. And Knight was bragging about this fly he had, how good this fly was. Well, Williams was out there, and he was just catching one fish after another. And Knight wasn't catching nothing. He didn't catch anything the first day. So they came back that night, and they were talking, and Knight, Williams was talking about all the fish he caught and how much fun he had and so forth. Knight, he didn't catch anything. So the next day they went back out there, and they looked over at Bob Knight, and he was just reeling one in after another, one trout after another, one trout. So Williams went up there and said, "Man, did you switch flies?" He said, "No, I'm using Country Kiss corn." He said, "Them trout they love at Country Kiss corn." He said, "I'm just catching one after another."
That's great.
Oh, anyway.
That's great. Well, that's it for.
Well, do you want to tell the other story that he told at the signing? You want to share?
Which one are you talking about?
So, get this.
Go
Mike.
ahead. Yeah.
He's talking
know
about his. He was talking about his when he got started with competitive fishing at on the William Blunt Middle School team.
Yeah, he's on the William Blunt Middle School.
That his first season, he and his partner did not turn in one measurable fish the entire season.
That's right. Yeah.
And that then he had to change partners because his partner was uber competitive and couldn't take that kind of disappointment. And it led into him talking about perseverance. Do you know who that first fishing partner was in 7th grade?
Who was it?
Eagleton quarterback Nate Clemmer.
Yeah.
Mr. Our small school player of the year last year. Uber competitive, and we've talked to him here on the show about his drive to win and how but fishing was beyond him. But not for our young man here who signed.
Yeah.
So his dad mentioned in his introduction that that he was awarded the Sports Page Player of the Year for fishing. So gave us a little plug right there, and we appreciated that.
Yeah, that was a nice plug. I was surprised by it, and
he had his shield up there displaying with a bunch of stuff that he had won.
There you go.
So congratulations to Carson Holbert.
Yeah. Good luck to him.
And just a pleasant guy to talk to.
He really is.
Just the nicest kid that you could talk to.
Yeah.
And it's the first signing in quite a while I've been to where the signee had a prepared and thought out statement that he read off. So I was impressed by him.
I was too, very much so. His whole family was great. Well, like I said, that's it for the Mandy B Street Realty local scoreboard. And I want to tell you that you're listening to WKCE 92.5 FM and 1180 AM. It is Mid-Century Radio. And now, do we have anybody for?
No, we pretty much ended up marking it down with kind of going over some of these playoff things. So
it's time to take a break anyway.
Yeah, I know I gabbed a little bit too much.
Well, it's okay. You did good. You did a good job. All right, Mike, get us out of here.
All right, time to turn the page and announce the Anderson Lumber Company Player of the Week. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, BF Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at stevensontire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with the rest of our broadcast crew, and now it's time for the Goatee Sports Player of the Week segment featuring Daily Times senior reporter Marcus Fitzsimmons, sponsored by Anderson Lumber Company, where quality service is always a priority. Proudly serving Blount County for over 75 years. Donnie Moore, I was in Anderson Lumber Company yesterday morning. I needed some paint.
Yep.
For my deck.
Good place to get it.
You're not a kidding. And I went in there and they loaded me up with some paint, and looks good on that deck.
Yeah, I bet it does.
Yeah.
Good
Great
job.
service. Even carried it out to my car.
Yeah. They take care of us.
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
Anderson
We're
Lumber
glad
Company.
to have them on board.
We sure are.
Yeah.
Sure are. Good job.
It's all yours,
All
Marcus.
right, Marcus.
Well, if you're watching the live stream, you just saw a special guest arrive.
Yeah.
So Coach Douglas Martins brought in some of the Harriers coming off of the Blount County Championships that were earlier this week. Coach, thanks for coming in this morning.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
So there's no big trophy to carry in, no giant plaque?
We have a plaque. It's not a giant plaque. We have a plaque, but it's set up in the room where all the students can see it and all the runners can see it. We have it at the school right now.
Good.
So I try to lay this out for people, and I find the coaches do it better than I do, because it's not just who runs and wins the first place that takes it all. There's an individual title, but for a team, talk a little bit about how the scoring takes place so people can kind of follow along as to what it takes to actually win a championship when in cross country.
Sure. So with the scoring, you always take your top 5 runners' places and add them all together, and then that total is your score. So the lowest score will win. So if you have runners near the front with a lot lower places, with if you get one first place, a third place, a 7th place, and a 10th place, that's going to be a lot lower than if you have somebody finishing the 20th or 30th place. So a perfect score in cross country, if you sweep it and do 1 through 5, perfect score is 15. And our girls were at 30, which was not a perfect score, but very close, close to that. So you really have to have all 5 runners score and finish close together to get that low score. So it's like golf, I say, the lowest score wins, similar to golf. So in cross country, it's the same way.
So that means when you're strategizing to a degree is everybody's got their top runners, and you're kind of looking when these get real competitive, they're going to be a place or two from each other. But this can really come down to runners 4 and 5 and whether they're in the middle of a pack or if they're at the back of that pack when those 4 or 5 come across the line.
Absolutely. I mean, it's completely a team score because especially I'd say in the smaller race like the Blount County Championship and the regionals, you don't have as many people between your front runners to push those back scores further back. So your third, fourth, fifth runners scores are always critical. And the closer you can have your first place runner to your 5th place runner, that's the spread they call. The smaller that spread is, the tighter your team score is going to be. So it really takes all 5 runners.
Because we were talking about this at Tuesday night of the championship when we went back and looked at the video from the finish line. And there were strong runners coming across in those top spots in the first. But when you got back to about 20, like 19, 20, there were some dead out, I'm going to die hitting the finish line races up that straightaway.
Yes.
In both races, I mean, both of the high school races, and it was like people diving across the mat, and some of that's exhaustion, but some of it was just like, I got to get a place.
Right.
That's not something you could practice, I would think.
Not too much. I mean, you run in a workout, at the end of a workout, running some fast reps, some really fast speed just to train yourself even after you run a big volume of speed that you still have that quick turnover at the very end. We can do that, but you can't replicate a race. I mean, there's nothing like racing to put it out there and to see who's gonna push the hardest at the end of the race. So you practice as much as you can, but then when it's race time, it's up to the runners just to put it out there and do it.
Well, you brought 2 of those runners with you.
I did. I brought the 2 Blount County champions, individual champions.
We got the champs here.
So we have Emma Roberts and Tommy Babbitt. So each of them were the individual Blount County champions by a lot. I mean, I'll just brag on them. Both of them had big gaps on that 2nd place runner, which is, I'll say, it's a hard way to run as far as to run solo nearly the whole race and to still put up good times like both of them did. Really shows the quality runners they are. So, yeah, I'm proud of them.
Well, and that's kind of where I was going to go because I got a chance to talk to both of them on Tuesday night. I'm glad they're here. I'm going to pick on Emma first because the girls' race goes first. That makes complete sense, right? What is it like when you are in front? And with a course like that, it's not like you can look over your shoulder and get much of a feel as to where you stand. What is that like?
I mean, it's a good feeling to know you're in the front, but also I always have I guess I'm a little bit scared of losing that spot because I don't know who's behind me or how close they are. So in my head, I'm just thinking you just got to keep going, because I can't turn around and just see where everyone's at because you're in the woods, and so you don't know where you're at. So I just know to keep going and keep pushing.
And I guess part of it, particularly with that course, is you do have to go through the woods. And I think you told me about the most fun part about going through the woods. Can you share that with folks?
Yeah. So right as you're entering the woods, there's steps you have to go up, and that's probably the most challenging part of that course. It's just like you see that and you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to go up these steps.
And that's not something. I mean, you're running. It's people. It's not like you're not just running stairs. You're hitting the stairs that are run.
Yes.
That's always a tricky combination. So, is the focus more running your own race? Is that kind of what you have to do when you're in a situation where there's no runners around you? You just have to focus in your mind on your race?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I was going into that race knowing that I probably wouldn't have like a PR or anything, just because I knew where I stood in that race. And so really I just focused on having fun, and just the weather was great, and just it's a fun atmosphere. So I just was trying my best to just have fun. And this is my last year running cross country for the team, so just making the most out of it. Yes.
So I'll say something for Emma real quick. So we ran that course in August, and from August to this October race, she took 50 seconds off of her race time. So really an impressive improvement from 2 months, and to be able to do it by herself, really a good thing to see.
And Coach, you kind of opened the door on that one, but that was one of the first races of the year.
It was.
And as a team, have you seen a lot of progress from, not just with your top runners, from where you were in August to where you are now a week out from regionals?
Absolutely. Oh, I mean, tremendous progress. We have a very young team. We have, on our girls' side, we have 2 freshmen that are in our scoring 5. So tremendous progress, but from not just the young runners, from all our runners. Emma is a senior here, and just to see her progress throughout the whole season, it's been really incredible and fun to watch. And that was it's fun to hit that course first and then hit it, almost next to last or third from the last, to be able to test yourself against that same course and to see where you ran. And on the girls' side, we had, I think, 5 or maybe 7 of our runners that ran their season best times, and that's a pretty tough course. And we had run a course in Alabama the week or 2 weeks before that was even a faster course, but the girls still came out, and about 5 of them hit their season best time on that course, which is just a big evidence of the progress they've made.
Tommy, you were in a similar position out in front, and I don't think it mattered as much because you'd seen this course before, and Maryville College does a really great job of kind of marking that, and with the help of the local high school coaches, of marking that course out. You ever been on one of those courses where you were afraid you were going to miss the turn and just keep running the wrong direction?
Yeah, definitely. Last year, when I was injured, I was injured almost completely last year, and so this year I was unfamiliar with most of the races we've run, but really, when I'm out there racing, I don't have that feeling. I just race.
So what's the hardest part? Because everybody else looks at you guys and is like, when we get in trouble, we have to do what they're doing for practice because y'all are just out there running. So how do you all kind of keep the focus as a team as to what you all need to do?
I like to review days before on like where I should be in the race and where we should be as a team. Make sure we have those spots in our placement.
And between the two of you, how many times in a given week do you go to mobsplit.com just to check different things?
Oh, I would say at least like 6 times.
Okay. Tell me, what about for you? Do you check it regularly to see what they're putting up?
Maybe like once or twice a week.
Okay, I think he's fibbing, but we'll go with once or twice.
Yeah, maybe a little more than that.
What about you, Coach? I would bet you wear it out 6 times a day.
Maybe not 6 times a day. Once a day would be accurate, though.
Okay.
I'd say once a day, just checking through or comparing races and looking back at things. Yes, I do. Check it quite a bit.
So give us a little bit of a preview here that regionals are coming up very quickly.
Yes.
And I'm still not comfortable with the TSSAA decision that is sending you guys down to Chattanooga to run for regionals rather than over at Victor Ashe. but that's not your call. That was TSSAA.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference in, I'll call it topography, between the courses you generally see up here versus what you get in Chattanooga, what kind of challenge is that? Because you're basically running on a saucer bowl.
It is.
I mean, it's a flat.
We call it a grass track down there where we run. The course we run for regional is very, very flat. The hardest part, what we call the hills of that course, are turns. There are it's a pretty twisty course, and so there are a lot of turns. And if you're not careful, we talk to the runners about this. You can slow down. Going around a turn slows you down a bit. And so if you put in, I haven't really counted, but I'm going to say there are 10 to 13 turns on one of the laps. And so if you slow down on each turn, you got to be aware of that. But as far as flat versus hill, I mean, it is a very, very flat course. So strategy-wise, you can tell the runners it's okay to go out hard because you're not going to hit a hill later in the race. It's going to slow you down. So you can go out harder than maybe you're used to because you're going to have that flat course the entire race. And so you have to just get them to be aware of that because sometimes it feels strange going out this hard and they're expecting to hit a hill later on, but not at that course.
And give people the heads up. When will you all be down there? And when is that race?
October 29th. So Tuesday. It's kind of an odd time for a cross-country race, but Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock and 11:45. So we'll run at Woodland Park Baptist Church in Chattanooga. So we have about a week and a half. The way the state race is about a week later just because of the way it fell with the 1st of November. And so the regional race is a little bit later this year. So we'll do that Tuesday, a week from this coming Tuesday. We'll be down at regionals.
And does it change the training regimen either? Do you spend more time working on the track versus running hills to get ready for that? Or?
So it does, yes, it does a little bit. We'll focus on the speed, and we'll be on the track some this next week. Still keeping, I call it a hill review, because when we go to state, and that is our plan for both teams, is to be able to qualify and go to state. State has a hilly course, and so we always keep that in mind and keep the kids fresh on how to run hills and just their legs used to running hills. So we keep that in there, but prepping for the regional race is much more focused on flat speed, just knowing how to get out there and hold that speed the entire race on a flat course.
So, Emma, the girls' race did not go the way I expected at county championships. Congratulations on winning. I really thought it might flip the other way with Alcoa, and I thought the boys' race might have flipped the other way for your all's favor, so it didn't turn out exactly the way. If I'd been betting, it would not have been. I would not have made the lines.
I don't think any of the coaches the same way. It was a good surprise on the girls' side, and it was for Alcoa. It was a good surprise for them on the boys' side.
But one thing I noticed, like Emma, it's community. Like I saw, there's runners behind the finish line, and they're gassed and they're laying there. I won't say gagging, but near gagging, and. It's not necessarily their teammate that's helping them up and giving them a pat on the back and checking on them. It seemed like it was very much a community feel, and everybody had a sense of whether the time they'd made and the other person's time was better or worse than they were expecting. Is that true, or is that just?
Yes, sir. I think that's definitely true because especially in Blount County Championships, like we all know who each other is, and we all know that cross country is hard, and so it can be very defeating whenever you don't hit the times you want. And so just checking up on another teammate, even if they're not on your team necessarily, it can just be very helpful and very encouraging just to know, like, hey, we all go through those races. We all have those bad days. So I think that's definitely true. Everybody is just friendly and everybody knows that it's a hard sport. So just being uplifting and encouraging is very helpful.
So in the ideal world, where you all go and have a really good run in Chattanooga, and Alcoa has a good run over at Victor Ashe, do the tents get close together at state? Like, is that part of the community, or is it like football where there's a respectful distance?
I think that if we both do good, like we'll both be like tell each other like good job and stuff, but still like they're Alcoa, we're Maryville, so like we're still gonna try to beat you. So I guess like still have a little bit of that distance.
Okay. And, well, Donnie wants me to go out, but we got a little bit of time. So I'm going to pick on Tommy a little bit more. What's the hardest thing about waiting through the girls to get done? Like, is it warm-up time or is it time to just chill? or do you try to keep track of the girls? Because you all have like a good 30-minute window after the excitement really gets started before you all can really get going.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of anxiety builds up during that time, but all the boys, we hang out and we try to, I don't know, lower our stress level. And with thing about cross country races, it's also just having a good time after and before the race, and I think that's what we do. We like to have a good time and hang out and talk, even if it's like with other teams or just getting to know each other. I like the I don't know, the atmosphere during cross country races.
Coach, I know I do have to get out of here, but one question. Do they still use Lakeshore as a course? Is that still a course that is used
It
for
has not
Knox
been
Larry?
used in the last, since I've coached at Maryville, it has not been used. So I don't think it's been used in several years.
Okay. That was one I always hated because these guys aren't familiar with it then.
They are not. No.
Okay, so it was a 120-yard straightaway, flat out from the start line, and then you hit a hill that's basically like running up that wall.
Yeah, I've run that in middle school before. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they might have. That's true. They've done that in middle school.
We used to dread that course like nobody's business because if you were not in front, all you were doing was eating mud clods from somebody else's because their feet were in your face.
Right.
I used to hate that one, but I'm glad it's not used for high school anymore.
It is not.
Okay. Well, we wish all the best of luck at region. Congratulations on the county championship. And we're going to pull the plaque out. Since you didn't bring your own, Emma, since the girls won, you're going to get the nod as the Blount County Goatees Player of the Week. So congratulations on the individual championship. And you can thank your girls for helping getting the placings to carry you across, because that's the only way you edge Tommy, because both champs here today.
Yep.
But Mike, are you ready for us to turn the page?
We can do that.
All right. Well,
okay, well, thank you, Marcus.
Thanks for coming in.
You having us here
like
today.
we said, best of luck.
Thank you.
Time for a break, and when we return, it's the Boyd Sports Spotlight as Donnie Moore will be up with the sports headline segment, and I'll be back to talk some college football. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
For over 90 years, Anderson Lumber Company in Alcoa has proudly served and supported our local communities. Locally owned, so the money made here stays here. Whether you're renovating a kitchen, bath, new floors, doors, or windows, Anderson Lumber is so much more than a lumber store and can take care of you from design to install. We welcome you to visit Anderson Lumber in Alcoa for all your home's needs, or shop over 67,000 items online at AndersonLumberCompany.com. Anderson Lumber since 1925.
Aubrey's is known for real comfort, real food, real good. But remember, Aubrey's is also really into Blount County. Aubrey's Maryville has been a strong supporter of local schools and sports programs for more than 15 years. From baseball to football, dance teams, and marching bands, Aubrey's has helped schools and youth programs generate thousands of dollars. It's easy for us to do because it's the right thing to do. So the next time you're looking to choose a place to eat, we hope you'll choose Aubrey's. Real comfort, real food, real good. See what's on the menu at aubreysrestaurants.com.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in Maryville, and this is Mike Edwards, and it's time for the Boyd Sports Spotlight. Donnie Moore, it's fall. Football's
Sure
going on, and Major League Baseball's going on.
Yeah.
Donnie,
It's a special time of year.
can I interrupt you before you start?
Sure, Marcus.
Because I kind of forgot something because I was having such a good conversation with the cross-country team.
Yeah,
I
you
didn't
were.
give the actual results.
Okay.
So
Let us know.
from the Blount County Cross Country Championships in high school division, boys, Alcoa took first with 32 points. Maryville was the runner-up at 39. Heritage was third. William Blount fourth. Clayton Bradley was fifth, and Eagleton sixth. And in the girls' high school division, the Maryville girls took first, and that's what we're talking about with Emma.
Mm-hmm.
And then Alcoa was 2 places behind with 34 points. And then Heritage third and Clayton Bradley fourth. And I'll say Maryville Christian was also out there competing. I think they were short of having 5 runners in each category. But probably the biggest meet that they've had for the Blount County Championships yet, to have that many schools out there.
Oh,
to have,
yeah.
and they did it with the middle schools running first, and that's ironic because the middle schools had their state championship meet like 10 days ago. So county is after state, but just a really, really great atmosphere. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Maryville College for hosting it. But go on with your headlines, because you've been brewing on these for a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's move to our sports headlines of the week, brought to you, as always, by Fast Signs. Well, we talked about this a little bit earlier, Mike, about Tony Bennett. And, of course, he's tendered his resignation. And he indicated, I'm gonna move on and get to a few things that I covered that maybe we didn't cover earlier. Bennett indicated in a press conference Friday that he believes that, this is a quote, the game of college basketball and college athletics in general are not in a healthy spot. You know, that's a pretty strong statement right there. Read this out of that. That's what I take out of it. The NIL is killing college athletics. Killing college athletics. Money is often the prime and deciding factor in a recruitment, and athletes are allowed to change programs as often as it suits them.
Hey, my take on all of this, it's like professional sports.
It is.
You're going to buy great teams. That's what this is going to boil down to. If you got the money, you're going to buy the players to have great teams.
You're right.
That's professional sports.
It is.
That's what it is.
Bennett has obviously realized that he is no longer the best coach to lead the program. The bright spot in all this for Tony Bennett, there is one. He is able to retire at age 55, having made $40 million plus coaching college basketball.
Yeah. And I believe I've seen in the past where he's given money to the University of
He
Virginia.
has given part of his salary
He's
to
been
them.
very,
You're right.
very.
Yep.
And he's been there how long? 20 years?
I would say he has.
15 years.
15 years? So he's not quite invested in the state retirement system in Virginia, but he's close to it.
No, but if he's made $40 billion plus, he doesn't
I'm
have
just
to have
saying
a
state retirement has its benefits.
It does.
Being
You're
a
right.
state, I mean, remember they are
Being
state
a-
employees.
Yes.
I mean, we have a coach across the river who's the highest paid state employee in Tennessee.
Well, let's go to a quick Major League Baseball playoff update. The National League, the Dodgers are in. No question about that.
You think so?
They are. They're in.
Well, they go
they're
back
in.
to L.A.
Well, they're in. I mean, they've won the.
No.
No, they got to win a fourth game.
They got to win game 4.
Do they?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it tied?
Yeah, they go back
Okay.
to.
No,
No, they're
it's-
not tied. They're
Yep.
up.
They're up 3-2.
Yeah,
3-2. Okay. Well, they're.
Mets won yesterday.
I still think they're in.
Well, I was kind of hoping for a Subway Series myself, but you know, L.A. and
We've done that. It's
Yeah,
boring.
that's not going to happen.
We did that, what,
10
10 years ago?
Well, I know, but it's always kind of fun. But you know, the Dodgers,
Yeah.
and if the Yankees get in, that'll be a kind of like the old days.
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
and speaking of the American League, the Yanks are up 3-1 over Cleveland. Cleveland won last night.
Yankees won last night.
Yeah, it's the night before. That's right. I was
Yeah.
watching it the night before.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Yankees were up 6-2, and
Yeah.
and Cleveland came
Cleveland
back and
clawed
and
back
tied,
and-
tied that game at 6-6, and then
Yeah.
the Yankees pulled it out. So you know they're in really good shape right now. I think
They
they play
are.
one more game in Cleveland, and if they don't get that, then we go back to New York.
That's the way it is. With the NBA regular season rapidly approaching, the heavy favorites to win the 2024-25 championship are, drum roll please, the Boston Celtics. Imagine that. After
I thought
all,
you should want to say the Indiana Pacers.
well, I wanted to. After all, they did win the title last season, and they returned all their core players. Listen, this is who they get back this year. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett, and Xavier Tillman. That's a pretty strong 10-deep lineup right there.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, I'll say this in the segue between Virginia coach and NBA. The NBA to me is the example of where you do not want college basketball to go.
No, you don't.
You do not want it to reach that level.
Absolutely not.
And it is the biggest fear that you could see some of this happening, where you could see guys not just talking to each other about where they might want to go to play in college, but talking about like, well, we can all go here and negotiate our NIL together as a package deal and start doing that sort of thing that would really damage the sport.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you notice that Dalton Connect, 35 points the other night for the Lakers?
He filled it up,
Yes,
didn't he?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Good night for him.
Yes, it
And
was.
didn't Lakers won that game too? A close one.
Good. Well, the WNBA finals, let's give a little update there. The New York Liberty and the Minnesota Lynx are knotted at 2 games each. Game 4 was last night at 8 p.m. at Target Center in Minneapolis. The result, Minnesota 82, New York 80. It's a close game last night.
Came down to free throws.
Free throws, yeah. A couple of free throws in the waning seconds. Game 5 is a winner-take-all game, and it's tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at Barclays Center in New York. So see how it goes. Tom Brady and his financial partner, Tom Wagner, have invested around $220 million for a 10% stake in the ownership of the Las Vegas Raiders. The deal was unanimously approved by all NFL owners and took almost 18 months to broker. So Brady's an owner.
Here's my question. If you are a minority owner of an NFL franchise, should you ethically be sitting in the broadcast booth where you might be calling a game for a team you own? In part.
Looks to me like he would have to recuse himself from Raiders
I don't
games.
think he can continue to be a legitimate NFL broadcast if he's also a 10% owner.
I don't know. You're preaching to the choir.
What about his ex-coach, Bill Belichick? He's kind of in the news right now, isn't he? He's going to marry a 24-year-old gal. Is that right? Did I dream that, or did I see that?
No, I think you saw that.
That was part of your recovery meds. That didn't really happen.
That helped my recovery.
We're all going to pretend it didn't happen, Mike.
Wow.
Yeah.
In fact, if you've got some left over, I might need some after that news came out.
Former Vanderbilt and Chicago Bears quarterback Jay Cutler was arrested this week by Franklin Police Department in Tennessee on charges of DUI and gun possession. Per officials, Cutler was 41 years of age, was arrested around 5 p.m. after being involved in a minor traffic collision. Officers said he smelled strongly of alcohol and had slurred speech. Police also found 2 handguns in Cutler's vehicle.
That's been corrected. 1 handgun, 1 rifle.
Okay.
Well, that's
2 guns.
It adds up to 2.
2 guns.
2 guns.
That
one was a loaded handgun, 1 was a hunting rifle.
Wow. Okay. He was booked into Williamson County Jail and released that evening on a $5,000 bond.
Let's kick in there that
Poor Jay.
this is, if you're familiar with downtown Franklin, this is like 2 blocks off the square.
Yeah, it is.
He rear-ended somebody, tried to leave the scene.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Didn't get away with it. Then tried to buy the guy off to give him cash so he wouldn't call it in.
Oh, no.
And
not smart.
The guy refused, and the police showed up, and this is what transpired afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
The rifle was in the back seat. The handgun was in the front console. So
loaded.
Did not earn him a lot of fans from Williamson County that way.
No. Oh, well. Haley Deegan is leaving NASCAR and making the full-time move to open wheel racing, Mike. The 23-year-old announced Monday she will drive a full 14-race season in Indy NXT, which is the IndyCar's development series, in the number 38 HMD Motorsports car. And by the way, Joseph Newgarden said he'd like to cross over into NASCAR and drive the double. Whether they'll let him or not, we don't know.
Like to drive Indianapolis and go to Charlotte?
Yeah.
He just race at Charlotte. Just do the double.
Yeah, that's what he wanted to do.
Not race NASCAR, just do the double.
Well, not permanently. No,
Yeah,
he
just race
enjoys
the double.
what he's doing. But
Well, I tell you right now, he next May's got a lot on the line, because if he wins
Yeah.
next May, he'll be the first individual to ever win the Indy 500 3 times in a row.
goodness.
Now, they've had some people come close.
Yeah.
You know, Bill Vukovich came close. Helio came close. And Al Unser Jr. came close, or Al Unser Sr. came close.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's got a legitimate shot at winning 3 in a row, and that's
Got
never
something
been
to
done.
race for.
That's never been done before.
No. Well, things that happened on this day in sports, October 19th. 1932, Jimmy Fox wins the American League MVP, and Chuck Klein wins the award for the National League. 1941, the first female jockey in North America was Anna Lee Wiley, and she raced in Mexico.
Okay.
First female jockey in North America. 1957, Montreal Canadian Maurice Rocket Richard becomes the first National Hockey League player to score 500 goals.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I would have thought I would not have gone that route into figuring out who the first would have been to do that.
Rocket Richard, 1957. 1969, Scotsman Jackie Stewart wins his first Formula One World Drivers' Championship, Mike.
Yep.
1969.
And what a great one he was.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
None better. 1987, Lou Piniella was named the Yankees general manager, and Billy Martin was named manager for the 5th and last time.
He was kind of in and out, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
In and out. When he was out, he was doing Miller Lite beer commercials.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right.
Back in the day.
Got a few birthdays here, and we'll wrap it up with that. 1876, Mordecai Three Finger Brown is a Hall of Fame Cubs pitcher, born in Nyesville, Indiana. Mike,
Did his mitt just have 3 fingers in it, or was that a 5?
I think it probably had 5, and he just left 2 of them blank right there.
Okay.
That would be my guess. He died in 1948, by the way. 1955, Lonnie Shelton died. He was a New York Knicks and Seattle Supersonics forward. I'm sorry, that's not died. That's birthdays. Happy birthday, Lonnie. He's a year older than me. 1962, born on this day, Evander Holyfield, world champ boxer from 1990 to 1992, born in Atmore, Alabama, 61 years old today, and missing a chunk of his ear. 1982, Louis Oosthuizen, the South African golfer, born in Mossel Bay, South Africa. Good golfer. Well, that's it for this week's Sports Headlines, brought to you, as always, by Fast Signs. I'm Donnie Moore. Back to you, Gunner.
Hey, it's the 3rd Saturday in October, and that means Alabama and Tennessee are squaring off. Alabama comes into Knoxville today, a 3-point favorite. Marcus, what's the storyline?
Oh, boy.
You could take a pick there. That's a lovely
Yeah, I
question.
know. There's a bunch of them. What do you think?
Do I have to pick?
Yeah.
Are you wanting a pick?
Yeah.
That's just tough.
Well, you got a playoff. You got a playoff spot on the line right here. You know the loser. I don't know. They could fade out of the picture.
I think the storyline is how much Tennessee's offense has improved, or if it's improved in the last week of practice.
I think there's a segment that has been hoping that Tennessee's been sandbagging for the last month to hide what they really want to do.
You never know.
I think that's being really dreamlandish, but let me just say, I think they want this to be a playoff elimination game, and they better hope that it serves that purpose, because if you have some weird set of circumstances where, like, Georgia beats Texas today, Alabama beats Tennessee, but then Tennessee turns around and beats Georgia, and Alabama beats Texas,
Yeah, where are you going to go
where are
with
you
that?
going to go to? I mean, you're going to have 4 2-loss teams to consider.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do then?
I don't know that Alabama's got Texas left on the – they have LSU.
Well, I'm saying if Alabama and Texas were to meet in the championship.
Oh, I see. But Alabama, they've got LSU at Baton Rouge left on their schedule.
That's tough.
Tennessee has got Georgia and Athens left on their schedule.
Right.
So that kind of puts it in perspective, in my opinion, of just how big this game is today, as far as
it's
coming
huge.
out the winner and coming out the loser and where it puts you. I just think it's a huge football game. There's no doubt about it. I think it boils down to Bama's offense with the veteran quarterback Milroe against Tennessee defense, Donnie. I think that's a big factor. They got a veteran quarterback going. He's a versatile quarterback. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. He's completed 73% of his passes for 1,483 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Well, that's certainly the matchup of the day.
Yeah,
Tennessee's
and
defense
listen,
versus Alabama's
he's the
offense.
second leading rusher on the team.
Yeah.
He's 319 rushing yards, second on 11
Well,
TD, on 77 carries. So I think that's a big story. You know,
Well, last week he was the only guy who could run the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't getting any production from anybody else last week.
Well, they got Jam Miller back here. He's running back. He's averaging 7.1 yards per carry and got 5 TDs. And they got another running back, Justice Haynes. He's averaging 6.4 yards per game and per carry, and he's got 3 touchdowns. So they've got some guys back there can run the football. But I guess my big question going in against Bama right now, the big question with Tennessee is where's their offense been? Where's their offense been in SEC play, and can it, like Donnie said, can it recoup today and wake up against a pretty good Alabama football team? And you think, well, I don't know where they can or not. And you're thinking, well, Alabama certainly's got better personnel than Florida's got. They got better personnel than Oklahoma's got. They got better personnel than Arkansas's got. So I don't know whether you can count on them opening up today or not and showing more. And you know they're gonna tee off of the running back for Tennessee. That's
Well,
done
they're going to
well.
They're going to watch Sampson.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And, you know, that may be part of the problem. I mean, I suspect that there is parts of the offense that are not quite in the playbook or are not quite on the page at this point, because I think by week 6 you're throwing things out of the playbook rather than adding them to the playbook.
Yeah.
And with what you do well and what you don't do well, I don't know that that's the case with Nico. I feel like there's some things that he hasn't done well that Tennessee needs him to do well or needs to do better on. And part of that is that in-between pass, not going deep where it's not a screen, but that second read in the middle, it doesn't feel like Tennessee has been able to do that 7-8 yard pass all that well.
No.
It feels like it's either been outside screen or down the field, but not the middle of the field.
Just as big a question mark with Alabama as the quarterback and the offense with Tennessee is where has Alabama been the last 2.5 games? The second half against Georgia, the game against Vandy, and the close call at home last week against South Carolina. Donnie, where have they been? Where have they been?
Wow.
Not at Nick Saban's house.
No, heavens no. They have not. I don't think they've performed up to snuff, as this old saying goes. And I don't know what to attribute that.
Yeah.
But I just don't think they're the
not
same.
so much the South Carolina letdown last week, you know, where they
Yeah.
barely came back. I looked for them after the Vandy loss to really come back and play really well against South Carolina, but that didn't really happen. You know, they just basically played good enough to win, and the loss to Vandy was just devastating. I mean, it was a devastating loss with what they've got left and what they're looking to do, this season. So,
do you feel like it's the aftermath of the loss to Georgia? I mean,
it could be.
Because like you said, it started in the second half against Georgia, and we haven't seen what the defense we saw up until that halftime of that game. We have not seen them play at that level since.
Yeah. Well, Nico, quarterback, the last 4 games he's been held under 200 yards passing. Can you beat Alabama with less than 200 yards passing?
I'm not sure you can.
Well, if you have 300 yards rushing, you can.
Yeah, if Sampson can come through with a brilliant day.
Well,
but you know, it takes an offensive line to do. The offensive line didn't perform very well last week.
No, they're being overpaid right now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Well, see, and part of it is I don't want to penalize them just simply because it was Florida, and
True.
Tennessee Florida is just it's just a fluky matchup.
Yeah, you can't call that.
But at the same time, they don't have what I would call a quality win under their belt at this point because of the way some of those other victims have played out so far since playing Tennessee. So, you know, you're going to need your offensive line to be there today. If you want to see what happened 2 years ago, you're going to need that offensive line to play like it did 2 years ago in this game.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I've written some things down here for both teams, what they need to do to win. I'm going to look at Alabama first. First of all, they don't want to beat themselves. Florida beat themselves in here last week, so you don't want to beat yourself. No turnovers, limit the penalties. Control the football, keep UT defense on the field as long as you can keep them out there. Score early, try to get the crowd out of the game. Florida did that and kept them in the game all the way to the end. You know, they jumped out there 10-0. Milroe confused the balls with the run and the pass. Limit the running of Dylan Sampson. You got to keep him under control. You got to pressure Nico, and you got to think touchdowns, not field goals. You know, last week Florida got hurt. You know, they had the field goal taken away. How big was that field goal before the half? Before the half, they got taken away right there, and they missed a field goal in overtime. You know, you don't want to be in a situation kick field goals. You got to make touchdowns if you're playing Tennessee up here in the Neyland Stadium. What's Tennessee need to do to win the game? They need to contain Milroe with their defense, run the football with Dylan Sampson, get the running game going. Nico has to have his best SEC passing game of the season. He has got to have, well, let's just put it this way. He's got to play his best game of the season.
Yes, he does.
He needs to play with confidence, cut down on the penalties. Tennessee, too many penalties. Too many penalties. Kicking game, punts and field goals. You need to have a good day there. Play field position. Not so many of those punts, line drives last week.
Yeah,
line drives against Florida got them in trouble in the big returns.
Easy to return.
And they need to play field position, make Bama go the length of the field, and above all, you know, you want to keep the fans. You need to keep the fans into the game for the entire duration. So those are the big points and
good ones.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game here this Saturday. They're going to have great weather. I mean, you know, for the third weekend of October, we don't have a cloud in the sky out there.
It's beautiful.
Huh? Who ordered that? Yeah, who ordered that?
No hurricanes in sight.
Hey, it's time for a break. When we return, we'll be back to close out today's show. You're listening to the Goatee Sports Page, and now stay tuned for the best in local sports.
The Roger L. Newman Company began in 1984 with a vision of providing Blount County with excellent heating and cooling service. Mr. Newman also wanted a real business. No gimmicks and no high-pressure sales. They just fix it or replace it. They want to stay within your budget and make you comfortable. Their motto still stands true today. Call us first, we'll be there. Call Roger L. Newman Company at 982-5446 or visit online at rogerlnewman.com. Cooler temperatures are approaching. Upgrade your furnace now for as little as $50 a month. For over 50 years and 3 generations, the people of Blount County have trusted Stevenson Tire with their vehicles and their families. Our mission has always been simple: to provide quality products at reasonable prices with exceptional customer service. Featuring tire products from Michelin, B.F. Goodrich, Uniroyal, Bridgestone, Firestone, and Yokohama, Stevenson Tire also offers alignment and brake services at affordable prices. Stevenson Tire Company, 2411 East Broadway Avenue in Maryville. Call 983-1621 or online at StevensonTire.net.
Welcome back to the Bluetick Tavern in downtown Maryville. This is Mike Edwards along with Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons. Donnie, you've been around longer than Marcus, so I'll talk to you a little bit about this one.
Quite a bit longer. Just look at the video.
You know, you're looking back into the days where, you know, Alabama came in here and Bear Bryant was coaching. That's going way back. How do you think the game has changed? How has this series changed since Bear Bryant was coaching as opposed to what we're looking at today?
Well, the game of college football and football in general has evolved into a speed game. Both, linemen used to be just big hulks that could move people out 2 or 3 yards, and that's about it. Now they're fast. They pull all the time, and they get the job done. They can get out on the corner and block.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think is how the game has changed since the Bear was coaching.
Yeah.
General Nealon.
And none of these coaches today are leaning up against the goalpost
No.
smoking a cigarette while the team's
Absolutely
warming
not.
up like Bear did back in the day. I can still see him flipping the cigarette down there on
I
the
can too.
goalpost, and that trench hat and that the hat that he used to
That houndstooth
hat he used to wear.
Yeah,
But
I remember.
anyway, this series, Alabama leads this series 60-38. Not all that close, to be honest with you. The first game was played in 1901, and last year Bama won 34-20, and they were down 20-7 at the half.
Mm-hmm.
So, last week we played Florida. We've lost, I don't know, what have we lost, Florida? 18 out of 21 games or something like that? It's a ridiculous figure.
Close.
For such a great rivalry, if you lose 18 out of 21, and when you look back at that game, it says, I don't care whether Florida shot themselves in the foot or whether we took the game. We as long as we won the game, I'll take it, because we haven't won very many here in the last 21 tries. But Marcus with Bama, we haven't been all that successful either. 2 years ago we got them in here, and it took a kind of a miracle there at the end. We kicked a field goal that looked like a wounded duck going across the crossbar. I think it cleared the crossbar by about a foot.
Yeah.
Huh?
Not much.
But a foot's all you need.
I mean, there was Alabama had the really long win streak. Tennessee broke it in '82. And then you had kind of like the Peyton years starting, like I think Tennessee won 12 out of 15 over that span before Saban arrived. And since then, it was pretty one-sided up until 2 years ago. So it's been streaky, as competitive, and I want to say, not to paraphrase somebody, but if you look at Alabama's record against any SEC school, it's one-sided, pretty much. So I don't take that into account so much as it's been a good rivalry, but I'd like to see Tennessee start a streak. I'd like to see everything the fan base wants happen for the program, because this is your opportunity to do what they did once before as far as getting the upper hand in this rivalry, because once you seem to get the upper hand, it tends to stay.
Yeah.
It doesn't tend to go back and forth very much.
Yeah. Tennessee, if you're looking at the ending schedule and how everything plays out, the Vols have got they've got Kentucky, they got Mississippi State, they got Georgia, and they got Vanderbilt, and Bama's got Missouri, LSU, Oklahoma, and Auburn. I think Bama's got a little tougher road there.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit tougher road than what Tennessee's got. And that LSU Oklahoma game, or both of those games are on the road for Alabama, and I think they got Auburn and Missouri at home. But that's how that plays out. Tennessee last week beat Florida, Donnie. They beat Florida. I think they were ranked 8th. And when the rankings came out this week, they were 11th.
Dropped to 11th.
They dropped 3 points. So explain to our listeners how you drop 3 points and you beat Florida at home. How do you do that?
Crickets. I don't know.
How do you do that?
You go to overtime in a game where you're favored by 14 to win, and you do it on a week when there is a bunch of movement going on the poll because of wins in other places, and you end up being on the wrong side of that dividing line. So the voters were saying we're going to move people up. They kind of drew the line at Alabama, Tennessee in between there. So they were moving people up, and Tennessee was the one who moved down to make room for them.
Indeed.
And I don't know why Alabama didn't move down with them. If you give them the eye test, I would have moved. If I'd been a voter, I would have moved them both down out of the top 10.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think that the season is pretty well on track. You know, before the year started, everybody said, well, you know, the 3 games that we got to really be concerned with, Oklahoma, Bama, and Georgia. Well, Arkansas took the place of Oklahoma since Tennessee beat Oklahoma out there. And now we're back to Bama and Georgia. If you're going to get things done according to what you wanted to get things done to start the season. Is that the way you see it, Donnie, or not?
I do. I see it just like that.
I think we're right on track. And then if we win today, then it comes down to Georgia. Pretty well comes down to Georgia, doesn't it?
It does. We've got to go to Georgia in Sanford Stadium and play well between the hedges down there.
Yeah. This is a huge day, not only here in Knoxville with the Alabama-Tennessee game with all the implications it's got. Of course, it can be seen at 3:30 on ABC Sports. The other big game, and I think that's where game day's at, is number 5 Georgia is at number 1 Texas. Texas is a 4.5-point favorite, and that's a 7:30 game on ABC. Huge implications down there.
Yeah. Bama's a 3-point favorite.
3-point favorite up here.
Yeah.
But
that is a huge game, though. Georgia at Texas. That's a monster game.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, you know, we always know I'm a fan of chaos, so I'm going to pull for Georgia to win on the road on this one just because. And, you know, I'm not a fan of the new guy coming in and winning, going undefeated in conference play.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like they're looking to do.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to have a lot of implications, and I think it's going to be like it was last week with Oregon and Ohio State playing. You're going to see shuffling. It's going to determine a lot of the pecking order, and it's going to set some precedents over how certain wins are viewed for the rest of the year.
I think there's a little bit more pressure on Georgia, you know, because they've got that loss. You know, Texas doesn't have a loss right now. Georgia's got a loss, so their backs a little bit gets to the wall down there, but that's how Kirby Smart likes them.
He does.
He likes to be backed up against the wall, so should be a great game. Number 6 Miami is a 5-point favorite at Louisville. That's one you ought to kind of keep an eye on. 12 o'clock on ABC. Marcus, Miami's kind of been on borrowed time. I mean, they've come back in a couple of games where it looked like they were done. Looked like they were done against Virginia Tech, and then they looked like they were done, a week or so ago out, where was it, out in California, wasn't it, or somewhere out there?
Yep.
Well, I'm looking for Jeff Brom and Louisville to upset.
Get them today.
To beat them.
They're due. You
They
know,
are.
Miami's due to lose one. They've been flirting with it, hadn't they, all year long. LSU, number 8, 2.5-point favorite at Arkansas, 7 o'clock on ESPN. I'm gonna look in on that because I'll tell you why. You know, LSU got the big win at home last week against Mississippi, and you know what happens when you get the big win? What happens the next
game?
Big win, next game. Well,
That's
they're
right.
at Arkansas, and Arkansas is not a bad football team. They got a dual quarterback there that can do some things. Marcus, you looking for an upset there in Fayetteville?
I would give them high odds just because I think Tennessee can vouch for the fact Arkansas can play well at home.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
And
That should be a great ball
And
game.
they really don't care who you are or how high you're ranked. So.
Yeah. Donnie, let's talk about some real playoff fever right now, okay?
Let's do it.
Real playoff fever. I'm talking serious playoff fever. Nebraska is at number 16 Indiana. Indiana is 6. Can you believe this? Indiana is 6-0, going for a 7-0 start.
Good grief.
And I think the last time that they even came close to a start like this was 1967 when they went to the Rose Bowl and played O.J. Simpson in Southern California.
You talk about some playoff implications.
And listen,
all about it.
They've got a very favorable schedule.
Yeah, they do.
I think Indiana plays Michigan at home, which is, I think, a winnable game for them. And I think they play Ohio State, but I don't think they play Penn State. I'd have to check that. But, you know, they're geared up where they could possibly go 11-1. in the regular season. And then, I don't know. But they're one of these teams that you're saying, well, they don't play anybody, and you're probably right. They don't play anybody. The SEC beats up on each other, and they play a lot better football. I'm not going to argue that. No. I'm not going to argue that fact one at all. But you take an Indiana, and let's say they run the table, or they finish 11-1. I mean, they could look at that and put them in the 12th spot.
They could.
They could put them in the 12th spot. I don't know.
It could be, but you know what? This is the system that they set up. This is what the powers that be set up, and this is what they're continuing to tinker with before it's even done.
You're right.
Talking about how they want to tinker and play with it to get the most out of it. You got exactly what you bargained for.
Yeah.
And you're going to be lucky if you do not end up in a situation where you have 3 or 4 teams with viable arguments that they should have been number 12.
Now here's another team. You got number 12 Notre Dame at Georgia Tech. Notre Dame's a 14-point favorite today, 3:30 on ESPN. Georgia Tech, pretty good football team, not too bad. But there's a Notre Dame team that's been beat by Northern Illinois.
I know.
They've been beaten by Northern Illinois, and you're saying they've got a pretty favorable schedule left. You say, well, they just play Army and they play Navy. Well, you're looking. Well, both of them are in the top 25 now.
They sure are.
You're thinking, well, they're ranked, and if they're ranked when Notre Dame plays them, then you're looking at those games really counting, and then it goes down to where they go out to Southern California, and that's going to be probably their toughest game left on their schedule. They could run the table at 11-1 with a loss to Northern Illinois, so what are you going to do with that? And they don't play in a conference championship game.
Nope, they don't.
Huh?
Nope.
That's all you can say is nope. I don't know. But
system they made.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, when you start looking at all these different things that can happen, but if it's like the past, a lot of times it all plays out. But it's going to be interesting with those 12 teams.
It sure is. That's already interesting in this football season. And, with 12 teams getting in the playoff, who knows what could happen?
Donnie, is it time to call it a day?
Mike, the old clock on the table says that it is.
Well, it's been good being back with you guys, and
we're glad to have you back.
Hopefully the things will settle down here, and hopefully the Vols will come away with a big win today against Bama.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Hey, that'll do it for today's edition of the Goatee Sports Page. Thanks to Aaron Ishmael back at Loud Media, our host, the Bluetick Tavern, and all our sponsors. For Donnie Moore and Marcus Fitzsimmons, until next Saturday, this is Mike Edwards, the Greenfield Gunner, wishing everyone good sports.
And that's the final whistle. Join us again next Saturday for the Goatee Sports Page. The best